2 years ago, after giving my JEE exam, I made a promise. A promise that I would never find myself in a similar situation ever again. I thought I had learned my lessons and I'm gonna share it. But today, I'm not here to give you some motivational gyan. This is gonna be raw, real, and unfiltered. This is what really goes down when you're chasing the IIT dream.
When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right."
When I look back at my JEE journey, it feels like I was thrown into a battlefield with a very little hope. But wait a minute, how did I actually get here? So, in the initial days of my school life, I was all about playing games, going out, enjoying with my friends, and doing everything except studying. Life was carefree, and literally, studies were the last thing on my mind. But then, it all changed in the 9th class, when my father decided it was time for me to join for the JEE coaching. Until then, I thought 10th boards were the ultimate challenge, the highest level of exams. But suddenly, a new word called JEE entered into my life. So after joining the coaching, the scene was like this. It felt like the lessons were happening in a different language. Most of my classmates were already way ahead. Yes, I'm in 9th class. And in between them is me, who doesn't even know 7th table properly. Yeah, so it was terrible for me in the beginning to cope up with my academics. The teachers would explain complex concepts, and it all went over my head. I remember sitting there, surrounded by kids who seemed to know and understand everything, while I felt completely lost. The more I tried to catch up, the more I felt like I was going down. I was frustrated, or maybe I was just overwhelmed. But then came a big relief. Our 10th board exams. For most of the students, it was like the ultimate pressure point. But for me, it felt like a chance to start fresh. I knew this was my moment. If I could somehow get through these exams, I could prove to myself that I wasn't just a failure who got left behind. So I started working hard, trying to understand the basics and mugging up the stuff that is required. The 10th grade was full of some of the craziest moments. We all had prepared well for the exam and we were ready to face it. But everything changed at the last moment. After finishing 2 exams, a news came out that none of us could have expected. The lockdown was announced. And just like that, our exams were stopped in the midway. It felt unreal. It was like Modi ji pressed the pause button and we were stuck, waiting for someone to hit play again. Finally, the lockdown got extended and everyone got 100% in the board exams. And before I knew it, 11th class had begun. For the first week or two, I tried to keep up. This time I did not let it down. I tried to listen to the classes regularly. But it was hard to stay focused, staring at the screen for hours, trying to understand the concepts. That felt even more challenging than before. I was okay with the online classes, but slowly, after that, I lost my interest. I stopped listening to the classes. I would log in just to make sure my name was on the attendance list, and I would keep the phone aside. I had reached a point where I didn't even know what topics were being taught anymore. Classes would go on, teachers would explain, and I was into other things like stock market, starting a business, making a YouTube channel. Watch my previous videos if you want to know more about it. But coming back to the story, my 11th grade was completed all at home during the lockdown. Then just like that, our 12th class had begun and the lockdown was lifted. But this is where the real story begins. A story filled with challenges and struggles that would change everything. This would be the first time stepping into offline college after lockdown. Everything was new, and I thought to myself, this would be the last time that I have to work hard, and this would be it. It could change everything. I realized this was my chance, and it was about proving to myself that I can do better if I truly commit. It was about being a better version of myself, someone who could take challenges, learn from setbacks, and keep moving forward no matter what. But by then, I was so out of touch with academics, and when some of my friends talked about chapters or assignments, I would nod my head along with them, pretending that I know what they're saying, but I couldn't even remember what had been taught. Then, after some time, I realized that most of the syllabus for JEE was over. My heart suddenly broke. I felt like I was left behind in the race once again. So, days passed like that. I was not able to sleep. I remember it was 2 a.m. in the night. I was sitting on my bed, watching this video.
No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart.
Slowly, I had a moment of realization. I reminded myself why I started preparing for this exam in the first place. I took a deep breath, gathered myself, and decided I wasn't going to give up so easily. I still have 5 months in my hands. So I sat down, made a plan, and broke the syllabus into smaller parts. I set daily goals and promised myself that I would give my 100% no matter what. So I decided to stop comparing myself to others and focus on what I could control: my effort, my mindset, and my consistency. Physics was my favorite subject. I can do math, and there was a lot to remember in chemistry. So I made a plan according to it. I wrote all the topics on a sheet of paper and segregated them according to the toughness of the topic, time required, and number of questions in PYQs from the topic. Although my friends were ahead, I know I can catch up if I follow my plan correctly. I used to get 80 to 90 marks in the initial days. It wasn't easy, but I trusted the process. There were late nights, countless doubts, and moments where I felt like giving up. But this time, I didn't. Slowly, bit by bit, things started to click. It was still a struggle, but for the first time, I felt like I was making some progress, no matter how small. YouTube was my best friend in this process. I used to watch Alak Pandey sir's lectures initially. Then, as the exams were getting close, I found this goldmine channel called IITJEE by Mohit sir. Yeah, it was a real gold mine. Very short lectures, maybe 7 to 8 minutes. And the way he covers the topics is amazing, especially the modern physics. I got a lot of confidence after watching his lectures. And for chemistry, I used to watch Prince sir's lectures. He was really a master of his subject. And I used to watch ATP Star for organic chemistry. I didn't even watch many videos for maths because it's all about solving problems. I would recommend you to solve A. Gupta if you have a lot of time. Remember, only if you have a lot of time. And if you are short of time, solve this book called Advanced Problems for Mathematics by Vikas Gupta sir. This is about books, but I've made a lot of mistakes along the process, like not solving the PYQs early on. I would actually recommend solving PYQs while the topic is being taught in the class, except the last 2 to 3 years. You can solve them in the end. Along with that, these are the 7 mistakes and lessons I've learned along the process. Now, coming back to the story. After all those months of hard work and sleepless nights, I finally stood outside the exam hall with confidence. I know I have nothing to lose. So I went into the exam hall with positive attitude and gave the exam. I started with physics, then chemistry, and finally maths. The 3 hours passed just like that. And before I knew it, the exam was over. I walked out, feeling as if a heavy weight had finally lifted off my shoulders. Then I got onto the bus, talking with my father, and feeling like I was really free. I can sleep at any time, I can wake up at any time, I can do whatever I want. The exam is really over. That's it. After some days, while I was scrolling through YouTube, I saw the results were out. Suddenly, my heartbeat pumped up. I opened the website, my hands were shaking, and then there it was. I was in a shock. My parents were happy. That's it. So, with that being said, if you really like my journey and learnings, I would not say to subscribe and all, but share it with one damn friend who really needs this. And see you in the next video.
Hickory dickory dock, back from the dead is a miracle doc. They counted me out.